Oh man, welcome to it, man. This is another episode of the Free Ride Podcast. Thank you very much for listening, for watching, for subscribing, for liking, and for commenting. Listen, peeps, I want to appreciate all of you. I saw all your messages, okay? My last episode with my conversations with yourselves about the VBS scandal, of course, it attracted a whole lot of views, man. It blew up on TikTok. It blew up on YouTube. I really appreciate it. And it's been a while since I've had so many numbers on my videos before. Of course, I touched the nerve, man. I touched the nerve. And of course, I got a lot of people upset. And of course, defendists were coming out blazing, defending a whole lot of nonsense. And of course, the sad thing is I've had a look at some of your comments, and I mean, I'm not going to go through all of them. In fact, I'm not going to go much of your comments because some of you, of course, sympathize with the people that have lost their millions, lost their hundreds and thousands of money, their pension funds money. They've lost their savings. They lost their stokvel money. They've lost their building material money. My goodness. I mean, there are small traders that are really relying on that kind of money to survive. And I read so many stories where people were saying, this one particular lady said she managed to get a couple of vendors together, not my vendor, but vendors, people that are selling on the sides of the streets. There's this mutual bank, and of course it's got better returns. Let's go together. We can form a stokvel of some kind and we'll go and invest some money. And of course, when the money was not available, when a death occurred in one of the vendors who lost their lives, they went to go and claim, and of course there was no money available, and that sent shock waves for them. And of course she had to try and explain herself to the people, saying, wait again, I did not chow your money. I didn't run away with your money. The bank says they have no money, and they have been trying to take VBS to court for so many years, man. And of course, now the matter is here. The matter has been discussed. Politicians are throwing names around in Parliament. And of course, you saw the opening of Parliament last week. It's been absolutely crazy. John Steenhuisen, after he was shouted at, and of course, you'll see it in a clip just now. He says, those gogos and old people who are living ko Limpopo, who lost their life savings, are not impressed with people by Longkore. They've got all these massive qualifications, yet they're the ones that have looted the bank. It is the most educated that steal the most amount of money, whether we like it or not. And of course today, which is what sparked my conversation today, okay? My conversation is this. Education, Tate Nelson Mandela spoke about it to say that education can actually save lives. And education changes people's lives. We've seen so many people that come from abject poverty becoming educated, and as a result, they then become extremely successful. We've seen people who've become doctors, scientists, lawyers, architects, you name it, engineers. There's so many people that have become overnight successes as a result. Not overnight. Of course, there's a lot of work that they're putting in to study, to become masters, to become, people with degrees and diplomas and you name it. So, which sparked what I want to discuss today. So today, my topic that I really wanted to talk about is literally the battle of the educated and the uneducated MPs. Yeah, you heard me. Now, we have been told that education will save your life, will improve your life. And of course, it's been true. It's been proven. However, there has been some also report that says that there's a whole lot of young people, especially in the US and here in South Africa, where a whole lot of people spend a lot of money, especially in the US, because now in the US, what I've picked up was that a lot of people do a lot of student loans. unlike in South Africa where there's NSFAS and of course there's bursary schemes and all of that, but a lot of young people are stuck with long-term debt that they've accumulated as a result of the educational fees, and does it result in better jobs, and do they able to pay off those student loans? And I mean, that's a big problem, but you can check it out for yourself. But today I'm purely focused on South Africans, okay? South Africans, we've been told that we need to study, we need to be educated, and we'll get good jobs. Now, there's a whole lot of young people. There's more than 600,000 unemployed young people who are educated, who have degrees, diplomas, you name it, and they are sitting without jobs. Now, all eyes have been on Parliament since the opening of Parliament, and of course since the swearing in of Parliament, members of Parliament. And now here's the big issue. I want to start off with that one. Now, this man is a minister, right? A minister. And he has no matric, okay? And he's not afraid to admit it. So let me start off with that clip. And when we come back, I want us to talk more about the skills levels of some of our MPs as per this report in their sixth administration, because there hasn't been a report that gives us a full analysis of the education levels of all the MPs at the moment. So let's quickly check this out, man. John Steenhuisen and Mbuyiseni Ndlozi, Dr. Mbuyiseni Ndlozi. Let's check it out.
What is the point of order?
Sorry, Speaker, I was switching on the mic. No, I wanted, Speaker, respectfully to address this honourable member with his rightful title as a matriculant, seeing that there are confusions of titles today.
Honourable
This is a judge.
Honourable
Now you have a matriculant.
Honourable Close. Honourable members. Order.
I think that the grannies and the pensioners and the Stokvels who had their money stolen from them at VBS don't sleep any better knowing that the people who stole from them have doctorates and master's degrees. You see, time and time again, they've used populist politics and racial rhetoric to break down any attempt at building a consensus over the growth-enhancing reforms that our economy so desperately needs.
All right, man. Welcome back to it. You saw it, and of course, the Speaker of Parliament is going to have her hands full, and of course, the Deputy Speaker, in one of so many debates that I've been watching, following, she has to reprimand these members of Parliament because they are, you've seen with Dr. Ndlozi, he's become a comedian. And so here's my thing, right? Now, these are members of Parliament, people that we have voted for to represent us in the Parliament of South Africa, to constitute the laws and bring us the laws that are going to advance and improve our lives. And yet there is a bit of childishness that's been going on. So, but what really took my mind this week was the battle of the educated and the uneducated MPs, okay? Steenhuisen has been mocked, and of course there's one of the other ministers who is a minister, but is being deputized by Sihle Zikalala, who happens to be far more qualified than he is. And of course, there's been an uproar debate to say that is it possible, or not is it possible, but why is it that a lot of white MPs white MPs are underqualified or only have a matric or underqualified, and yet they are members of Parliament and they make more than 2 million, 2.4 million a year. What does it mean? Is it a slap in the face of the young people that are trying to get their education, yet they can't get work? So I want to take you back to this particular article, okay? So this one was actually tracking the in 2017, and this was tracking the sixth administration. So it says, as a debate raged this week about the qualifications of MPs, the educational qualifications of more than half of South Africa's public representatives, and overall, they are a fairly well-educated group. So we still have to see what Parliament is going to declare around how qualified these MPs are. So, but many MPs insisted that educational qualifications are not a key seat in Parliament, okay? That educational qualifications are not the key to a seat in Parliament. Being a good politician is what counts, right? According to the People's Assembly, a non-profit group that tracks MPs and seeks to promote accountability, there are a total of 449 representatives of Parliament, and there are 400 seats. There are 400 members of Parliament, and the other 49 are permanent members of the National Council of Provinces. So in total was 449. That's as per the 6th administration. Of those 449, they were able to track down 247 members' educational details, which reflect a fairly educated spectrum of doctors, lawyers, and some theologians, right? Of the 247 members, 9% have PhDs. Of the most popular fields are philosophy at 22% and law at 9%. This week, the Democratic Alliance came out in defense of a party's chief whip, now leader, John Steenhuisen, who does not have a tertiary education. The scrutiny began when the Sunday Times reported on a proposal by the KwaZulu-Natal DA legislature that an MP with a university degree should be considered for the position of the chief whip. And this comes from the DA, yet their own leader does not even have a matric. On Tuesday, in Parliament, during a debate about the National Qualifications Framework Amendment Bill, which would prohibit people from misrepresenting their qualifications, Steenhuisen explained that it didn't matter what qualifications one had or did not have as a member of the House. He said he had enrolled for a bachelor's degree in politics and law, but because of financial and work pressure, he could not finish, and he was not ashamed. Take a listen to this, man.
Shut up. I don't have a university degree. I've never pretended that I did have one. Shut up. I enrolled for a BA in politics and law, and due to financial and work pressures, I couldn't finish it.
You're not ashamed to that you don't have a degree, but are you ashamed to mention that you also don't have matric?
Can you please take
You
your
also
seats?
don't have matric, mention it as well.
And shut up, you Steenhuisen, and listen.
Cry, the beloved Parliament. You checked it out, right? So the article goes on further to say the Constitution of the Republic is very clear on who qualifies to be a member of this House. The Constitution made it this way so that it didn't matter whether you are a mine worker or a brain surgeon, you could still participate in our democracy, he said. I mean, that's absolutely truth. Because if you think about it, look, I mean, I'm tired of using the AUFF as an example because so many of them are educated there. But I mean, they represent the interests of the waiters, the interests of the workers, the interests of the garden workers, and all of that. So that's the state of some of our members of Parliament who have qualifications. So let me read one comment here from a member who used to be a DA member in Parliament. I'm not sure if he's still there, but his name is Dirk Stubby. Another DA member said he would not comment because this was never been done in all the years that he had been in Parliament. To me, you don't need qualifications to be a politician. You need to be able to think on your feet and know what is happening in life. I know a lot of people from all parties who are good at being politicians and they don't need qualifications. Political analyst Ngabisi Ndlechana agreed that politicians are not elected on qualifications but on popularity of their party. In politics, technical your technical know-how, it's not a prerequisite. What you need to have is experience and knowledge and sympathize with the people you are meant to represent. If they have technical expertise, it's a bonus. But it's not a prerequisite of a popular democracy. You can have that in an aristocratic democracy where only the rich and educated qualify for office. He added that people were surprised that a white person, Steenhuisen, only has a matriculation certificate. So, again, I mean, this article says that he has that. I mean, this is what Lachana says, but does he really have a matric certificate? Does it really matter? In the private sector, people were not aware that there are many white people who occupy senior positions but don't have qualifications. That's where the surprise arises from. There has always been an association of white with excellence, which is not real. It's just a function of white privilege, said Nlechana. All right, so I want you to take a look at this because, interestingly, one of the debates that actually stole the moment was, of course, Dr. John Hlophe. It's a battle of doctors, all right? So Dr. John Hlophe, he responds to the president. And, of course, he breaks down the president's speech in his own way, and he says that he's not happy with what has been said. It's not true what the president is saying. The whole GNU is a hoax, and that there is emergency, that based on his experience, a GNU is formed only when there is a crisis. And of course, take a listen to what Ndate John Hlophe had to say.
The students of political science, Mr. President, will tell you a simple fact. You don't form a government of national unity when there is no crisis. A government of national unity is formed when there is a crisis. We had it in 1994 in this country. We had it in 1994 in this country because there was a crisis and we're emerging from apartheid. There is no crisis. The only crisis is that the ANC has lost the majority. Now, we understand why the ANC has lost the majority, and you know it too. What I find striking is this. There were so many parties that campaigned openly against the ANC. There were many parties that said they will never work with the ANC. But when they were offered blue lights, they suddenly fell in love with the ANC. Quite frankly, I respect someone like Minister Gayton Mackenzie, whose views were always clear. He said he will work with any party, and he has been consistent in that regard. There are parties here which campaigned against the ANC, but when the opportunity to be on the gravy train came, they went for it. The MK party is very clear. We are aware that your propagandists have been spreading the lie that a national unity government in South Africa could help deepen democracy because it means no one political party can impose its agenda on all and sundry. But we are not fooled, Mr. President. We are not fools. It is very clear that the DA has a veto power in respect of the so-called government of national unity. The MK party was excluded and denied participation in the sellout GNU because we do not agree with the ANC and the DA racist on many fronts. In our manifesto, we were loud and clear. I quote, "The MK party is committed to transformative change across all sectors of South African society. Our policies are designed to address the most pressing challenges we face today.
honorable members, can we all be in order and allow the speaker on the podium to proceed?
I will go back to our manifesto. The MK Party is committed to transformative change across all sectors of South African society. Our policies are designed to address the most pressing challenges we face today: economic inequality, inadequate access to quality education and healthcare, national security threats, inequitable land distribution, and the need for robust traditional leadership and foreign policies that reflect our values and aspirations. Through our manifesto as the MK Party, we aim to lay down a clear path towards a more equitable, secure, and prosperous future for all South Africans. The restitution of land to Black South Africans remains a yardstick against which sellout ANC and DA-GNU government, against which your performance will be measured. Land has symbolic value to us. It means so much to us. As President Mandela once said in 1995, with freedom and democracy came restoration of the right to land, and with it the opportunity to address the effects of centuries of dispossession and denial. In a similar vein, President Luthuli of the ANC once declared the following. He said, "Without land, there is no dignity." Our own President, Umsholozi, said the following. He said the following. Inkinga zethu zaqala ngesikhathi kufika abamhlophe kuleli. Bathatha umhlaba wethu, bathatha nomcebo wethu, bafika nomthetho wabo, bazenzela unothanda nje. Namhlanje asinamhlaba, namhlanje asinamfuyo, konke kwathathwa ngesihluku. Salwa silwela umhlaba wethu, asizange sivele siwanike abelungu. At this point, I want to recognize our traditional leaders who are here as part of Umkhonto weSizwe, because in Umkhonto weSizwe, we believe that the land belongs to the nation and the land belongs to the people. His Majesty, the King of the Khoi and the San people, Glenn Taiposh. His Majesty, King Dalindyebo Matutu. His Majesty, King Zwelethu Mthethwa is here. And finally, our own President is a king, Ubaba Zuma. Yes, he is.
Your peers, you always talk about education, Honorable Ndlozi. Your peers are delivering papers while you are ice boy here being sent around. Must not come to me. Don't tell me about education. South Africa is going to go forward together. The ones that want to remain, let them remain. The GNU, we are going forward. And I will tell you a secret. The only reason why they call us sellouts, because they are not on the GNU train. They bought the wrong ticket. I want to say to Honorable Judge Lope, I'm sitting there and I'm shocked because you, Honorable Judge, have sent many of my old friends to jail with Roman Dutch law, which you enjoyed. you were getting you talk about the blue lights, while you were getting the perks of the judge, being a judge, you never saw something wrong with blue light. You never saw something wrong with Roman Dutch law. Today, when you're no longer there, now you are seeing something wrong with Roman Dutch law. It cannot be. I'm going to pay for an appeal for everybody that has been sentenced by you, because you sentenced them with the wrong law according to you. Thank you very much, Honorable.
Order, honorable members. Order.
All right, so you've had a listen to that, and of course, very interestingly, that it's a battle of doctors. There's more doctors now in Parliament, and of course, in between that, there are some young MPs who are also very qualified, which is quite interesting. But here's a doctor that really stole the limelight, and of course, it's as a result of the response to Dr. John Hlophe, and of course, a response to the EFF, and it feels like these doctors are going to have a field day in Parliament. And of course, those who are not educated in Parliament are probably going to feel the heat, because we've also seen some MPs who are battling to read their speeches with confidence. And we've seen MPs who are battling to really grasp what has been written in their speeches. So it's going to be an interesting one. But this Dr. Kgosientsho Ramokgopa comes onto the stage, and of course he takes all the limelight. He demystifies or he rubbishes what Ntate John Hlophe had to say, because in fact he says that he wants to educate these members. So it's going to be an interesting battle, but I want you to take a listen to what Ntate Kgosientsho Ramokgopa, Sputla Ramokgopa, what he had to say. The honorable doctor, and of course there's a battle of these doctors in Parliament. They want to outwit each other, they want to outsmart each other, they want to outdo each other. Let's listen to what he has to say.
Thank you very much, House Chair, and my warm and sincere greetings to Honorable President Ramaphosa, Honorable Deputy President Paul Mashatile. I must say that 12 minutes can be a very, very, very long time when you don't know what to say. And I want to say the following to the previous speaker, that I think it will be served exceptionally well by directing the arguments against the IEC to the Electoral Court. So I really want to pursue you, not to withdraw the case, but to pursue that case, and hopefully you'll be able to prevail. So on the occasion of the inaugural Lekgotla of the 7th administration, the President made an inspired decision to invite one of the most preeminent and prolific political economy scholars in the country, Mr. J.P. Landman. Mr. Landman delivered a compelling paper, and that paper is titled "From Crisis to Opportunity, a Path to Sustainable Growth." And that decision is inspired at two levels. The first one was it is important that we are able to invite outside parties who will be able to provide a critical analysis, a critique of the performance of the South African economy in this instant, and we are able to get better insights on how best to improve the situation going into the future. And what Mr. Landman did was to compute a longitudinal study of the South African economic performance over an extended period of time. And he was able to illustrate that that period is punctuated by a number of tectonic events. And these events include the Great Depression of 1929, the crisis, the oil crisis of the 1970s, the financial crisis of 2008, and the most recent headwinds of COVID-19 of 2019, amongst the others. And he was able to illustrate that they were on a correct path, but there are things that requires our collective attention. And in his own independent computation, contrary to what has been shared before us here, was that we have returned to pre-COVID levels from a position of, if you had to use multiple matrices, including the issues around jobs, that we have been able to claw back those jobs, although we still have a lot to do for us to be able to address this situation. But it's also important because there has to be a greater appreciation that, unlike what has been deposited here by Dr. Hlope, he makes the point that the scholars of political science suggest that the government of national unity are only constructed to respond to an emergency or a crisis. I want to suggest to you that there is more contemporaneous studies that suggest that it's not only about emergency or crisis, but the possibility of collectively pursuing an opportunity that presents in the context of a geopolitical crisis. I am making this point because, as the good doctor will know, is that we've got both an intellectual and academic responsibility to surface alternatives and, if you like, counter views when we posit an argument. And in fact, what we have done amounts to, if you like, an intellectually and academically incompetent argument. And I'm saying that with the greatest of respect. So it's important that we are able to pull this together. And then the issue of the GNU. I must say that the African National Congress entered into this arrangement and it has not lost its character. We have always and remain of the following view in our characterization of the South African conflict, that is underpinned by three interrelated and antagonistic contradictions of race, class, and gender. And the resolution of this question gets to be articulated in the most substantive fashion in the crisp apex priorities of this seventh administration. And I want to say to Honorable Maimane that we are not all over the place. We simply identify the three priorities. I'll unpack those. As I confront what I refer to the Malema oxymoron. What do I mean by the Malema oxymoron? So, it is acceptable for the EFF to enter into an arrangement with the DA and other parties to displace the ANC in Tshwane, Ekurhuleni, and Johannesburg. But when we do that, we get to be labeled. The oxymoron goes further. He makes the following point. He says that this is a sellout arrangement. And essentially what President Matamela Ramaphosa delivered yesterday was authored by the Oppenheimers. And then in the same argument, he says, but this is a repeat of what Matamela Ramaphosa has been saying all along. So this articulation really belongs to us. Is the originality of this. So that is the oxymoron I'm referring to. Let me go to the substantive issues. The first issue on inclusive growth and job creation. The President Ramaphosa makes the following point, that there is a need for us to beneficiate the minerals. Honorable Shivambo says that the geopolitical consideration should be factored in the speech. Of course, there's an undercurrent of that in his articulation. What do we know about the clean conversation about the just transition? We know that the Western industrialized North are likely going to introduce artificial barriers in the form of carbon border adjustment mechanisms. So it is important that for us to protect our industry, that the generation that support the production of these products that serves the Western and industrialized markets should come from cleaner forms of technology. And what do we know about the possibility of clean forms of technology? Is that we have to have an appreciation of the entire value chain. That there are minerals that constitute what I refer to as the battery economy. So this is cobalt, nickel, copper, rare earth elements, PGMs, to mention but a few. And a significant number of those are found here. And that's why on the back of an industrial policy, having concluded the cadastral system that Minister Mantashe is referring to, we are able to articulate in the most comprehensive and coherent manner what these opportunities present as we evolve towards the electric cars, the displacement of an internal combustion engine to be replaced by electric vehicles. South Africa's market is much bigger than that's the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, but the possibilities goes beyond. And when you go to the issues around green hydrogen, the appreciation is even much better. The hard-to-abate sectors, we are sitting with those endowments, and South Africa is sitting pretty to exploit these opportunities going into the future. So that sits in that articulation of President Ramaphosa. Just a few months ago, we got to be accused that the kind of progress we're making, spectacular progress, in the resolution of the preeminent and existential question that was facing the South African economy, that of load shedding. We are accused as we're moving closer to the election, by all quarters, by the way, that this is an election gimmick, that in fact, after the elections, load shedding will come back. And in fact, the leader of the EFF, Honorable Malema, he was even prophetic. And he said on the 29th of May at 10, the lights will go off. We are 113 days today without load shedding. And when I was advised that respond to this question. When I looked deep, I said it doesn't warrant a response. But in fact, what it calls for is education. It's a very complex engineering question to understand. And I'm going to give myself time to be able to educate you so that there's a greater level of appreciation. But we also, on the issues of reducing poverty and tackling high cost of living, President Ramaphosa makes the point about expanding the flow of the social wage. When I'm talking about the social wage, I'm not only talking about transfers. The 340 SRD grant is the threshold of water and electricity that we give to the poor. And the zero rating, the expansion of the zero VAT rating of the basket of food. President Ramaphosa refers to that in his articulation. Surely, someone who defends and expands the social wage can't be a sellout. He's someone who's on the side of the poor and doing everything to ensure that we address this question. I want to say, as I move closer to conclusion, that we are going to protect also the interest of the poor to the extent that their wages and their disposable income is eroded by the exponential increases with regards to electricity tariffs. And it is at this point that we are going to super exploit our renewable endowments in the form of the sun and the wind speeds that are found in the Cape provinces. And in this way, we are able to green faster, cheaper, more affordable, and we are able to achieve universal access as we continue the agenda of reindustrializing the South African economy, as we articulate a comprehensive economic growth policy undergirded by an industrial policy and an energy policy, and we'll be coming out to articulate the integrated energy plan going into the country. And the last one is around building a capable, ethical, and developmental state. The turnaround, as an example, that we are seeing in ESCOM, is not an act of miracle. It is a deliberate, calculated, orchestrated engineering effort to respond to an existential problem on the economic front by competent men and women of ESCOM who are diligent. Chalmers Johnson, one of the most foremost scholars on the political economy of countries, when he studies the Asian tigers, he makes the point that what is common about those Asian tigers is that the state was never in retreat. The state led the developmental agenda, and was able to aggregate all of society, including business, behind a common agenda. The second one he makes is a concentration of pockets of excellence, what we call SOEs, and those are the major drivers. We're able to push back state capture at ESCOM, and that's why the lights are on. It's because of the honest men and women. But that's not only restricted to the public sector. The private sector also has an obligation, and we can see the decimation, the devastation that has been visited on VBS. The poor who have spent all of their savings with the intention of retiring happy, their lives were destroyed by the greedy and those who don't have the interests of the poor at heart. As I conclude this, I want to say the following, drawing from the counsel of President Mandela. He has the following to say: difficulties break some men, but others but make others. No axe sharp enough to cut the soul of a man who keeps on trying, one armed with hope that he will rise even in the end. And I'm confident that with this GNU will deliver the results for our people. President O.R. Tambo makes the point. On the occasion of the burial of Joe Kavi, he says the future is bright, the end is glorious, the intervening period is dark and bitter, but finds glory in acts of struggle. The GNU will deliver us. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Honorable Minister.
All right, man. You've heard it for yourself. And of course, very interesting response, very high level. And I mean, I read some of the comments. And of course, let me go through some of the comments that people had to say in response to this particular speech by Dr. Kosienzo Ramokgopa. And of course, Emilio Gaviria says, I'm guaranteed Zuma's daughter did not hear anything. Take a look at this picture right here, man. Oh my goodness. And then he says, this man said a lot of things, but nothing substantive. This is Emmanuel Piquet. And then Zolani says, it was too academic. I don't blame you. And then another one says, Naledi Sneaker Link says, Naledi Pando used to be the sweeper in parliament for the ANC. Looks like Sputla is the new sweeper now. Sandy says, damn, I was waiting for a point of order from Lozi. The difference between engineering and humanities faculty. Oh my goodness. Unfortunately, they can't argue with him or stop him because they can't hear him, says Ndlala. And then one thing Kasputla, he will wipe the floor kawena. That's We Are Liverpool. And then Dr. Piers Harry says, the minister is putting Malema in his place. Ndlozi feels like a preschooler against Ramokgopa. This man is an academic and an intellectual of note. And then Zamakuma says, damn, who else had to listen to this speech more than once? Listen, I had to listen to the speech at least 3-4 times to understand what he was saying. He was just, oh my goodness, Sputla. No, he gave me goosebumps, man. Tifo says, this was so unfair to the MK and the 9% party. Sophia says, the ANC has people of this caliber amongst its ranks. Very refreshing. I'm dead sure that half of the house didn't understand what he was saying. Bravo to ANC for this man. This man made a summary of all what Ramaphosa said in an understandable manner. Intelligence. Alexander says, EFF and MK are confused because they can't understand anything. Another user says, hate it or like it, ANC have leaders like Naledi, Panyaza, Kosienzo Ramokgopa, and many others. rumors says that Duduzile just bought an Oxford dictionary and a Britannica encyclopedias. Oh wow. Spootler at his best, and Malema prophecy, a complex engineering which Malema can't understand on VBS looting. It was greedy. Why is EFF and MK not interrupting him? Lol. Or did they hear anything? Where is Judge Slope, says Gacheni? Mary says, wow, people of Nkandla didn't hear anything, especially Tutuzile and his Baba. Now, this is the language the MK doesn't comprehend at all. EFF has some that can talk. And where is this? Where us as ANC want demand to be recognized in the room with standard 2 achievements. Wow. NNK says PhD is talking here. Kayam Fono says intelligence in totality, critical thinker and coherent thinking, the type of leader to make impactful change for the people of South Africa. So this is how I come to the end of it, man. This has just been dedicated to really addressing the issue of the uneducated and the educated MPs, members of parliament. So maybe just a little closing statement here by Jonathan Jansen says, a distinguished professor at Stellenbosch University Faculty of Education said Steenhuisen's issue has come up because he's particularly effective whip. He expresses himself with the confidence and sometimes the haughtiness of the privileges classes. The issue of white male privilege was irrelevant in this debate, but it is relevant in the context of broader status of our society, that in general it is true that if you are white or a white male, you are privileged. Of the 54% of the DA members have passed matric. Among ANC MPs, 152 members' details were obtained. Of those, 91% have matric. The Economic Freedom Fighters, 30 members, 93% with matric. 54% of the DA members have matric. 91% of the ANC has matric. 93% of the EFF members have matric. So the EFF shows that there are far more people with matric in there. But does it really matter? Does it really matter? I mean, there's another topic I'm going to come back and bring back, because I have studied a little bit about the Corruption Watch and the International Corruption Watch, just to understand where we are as South Africans in terms of corruption and all of that. And here's what I actually found, is that it is the most educated people that actually steal the most amount of money. It is your lawyers, and it is your accountants, and of course highly qualified public officials who are either city managers, CFOs, and others who are highly educated. They understand how sophisticated the MFMA and all the other legislators that actually govern and should be monitoring the issues of finance within municipalities and state-owned entities. But they are able to bypass all of that. They are able to lie to the Auditor General, and it is the most educated people that steal the most from our poorest of the poor. So does education really make a difference in the lives of our people? Does it really? Those who are in charge of power, those who are in charge of government, when they are highly educated, do they make a difference in the lives of our people? If you look at the state of our roads, if you look at our state of our robots, if you look at the state of service delivery in our cities, in our little towns, if you look at the state of the South Africa's economy, we have entrusted educated people to turn the economy around, and have they done a good job or not? So does it really matter that the MPs are educated? Does it really matter that members of provincial councils, or provincial legislators as well as city councils, does it really matter that they are educated? Should they be educated? That's the question I want to know. So I want to hear from you. And I think on my last closing comments, and of course, you've seen in the US, I've spoken about it. There was a 2-horse race that I spoke about in the last 2 episodes. And of course, we've seen that sleepy Joe Biden here has quit. He has stopped. The 2 old men, are they even educated, these 2 men? One of them is a streetwise man who's a business savvy man and who has built multi-billion-rand businesses, multi-billion-dollar businesses. And maybe we don't even know how educated both he and the other guy was, the current president of the US. So, Sleepy Joe Biden has stopped campaigning. Kamala Harris is back in town. And of course, there's a video I'm going to show you now from The Simpsons. They are predicting that possible first female president is going to come out of the US. And that might be Kamala Harris. And The Simpsons have been right for a very long time. All right, man, I'm signing off. This is your boy. I'm out.
As you know, we've inherited quite a budget crunch from President Trump. How bad is it, Secretary Van Houten?
We're broke.
The country is broke? How can that be?